Alright, so I'm repairing a window sash on a home that's over 150 years old. And here's one of the windows here. And you can see the paint is really chipping. So it's kind of gummed up in some spots. And you can see this side, it's just peeling off all over the place. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to get a window sash that's looking this crappy down to bare wood, as you see on this other sash. And this goes to the same window. So it looked like that before, and now it looks like this. I went and sanded this down to 220, or I think 120 is what I did, and filled all the little imperfections that it had. This window sash was actually loose down here. I could actually pry it out. What I did is I put some brad nails in it to hold it in place better on both sides. And I filled the brad nail holes. And it's quite a bit of work, but you want to go and take all that old glaze out, which sits in this groove here, and that's quite a bit of a job in itself. And here is the glass all cleaned up, ready to go back in. I'm just waiting on the glaze. And I did buy the window, what is it, glazing from Home Depot, 33 is what it's called, DAP 33. And I went and I returned it because the reviews on it actually takes several months for it to dry and a couple weeks for it to even get to the point where you can paint over it. And so what I bought was the Sarco Type M stuff online. It's a little more expensive, but the stuff has linseed oil in it. And that's what they used back in the day. And the reason why I'm redoing this and not getting new windows is because back in the day, these windows, you know, were made really good out of real wood. And what we have today is plastic PVC type windows. And after 20 years, those things, they warp and they're no good. So these things lasted, you know, 100, 200, 150. This one's 150 years old, and the wood is still good. As you can see, it's not rotten. It's pretty nice. I'll show you the other side. It's pretty good all around. So I want this thing to last another, you know, 50 to 100 years before it has to be redone again. So that's why I'm using the original stuff, the glazing. It's by Sarco. And yeah, I'm just waiting for that to come in. When it does, I'll go and put some in here, lay my glass down, I'll use some the original, where did I put them? Well, some of these right here, push points to hold it in, and that's, you got to use those so the glazing has time to here's the original ones. So these are probably 100 years old or older. So I'm gonna show you guys again how to take this old sash and make it bare wood like this one. Get all that old lead paint off, and you know, I don't know how many dozens of times this has been painted over the years. And one reason why I'm doing this work to these window sashes is because when cars go by on this street, and it's a main street that I live on, you can hear rattling, especially when there's trucks or something that goes by. And the reason why it's rattling is because all of the glaze, which is, I don't know, 50, 100 years old, I don't know how old it is, but it's coming off. You can see where it stops there. And there's no more glaze all the way down. There's no more glaze at the bottom. And there's a little section right here, little section right there, and that's it. So there's very little glaze on this window. So all the drafts, when it's cold, go right through this glass. And yeah, it's not keeping the room warm because of the glazing being gone. Now this is the bottom window sash, so this has more damage to it because this is where the water hits it. You can see there's some little bit of cracking in the wood. That's fixable. And you can see down here is a little bit of a hole there at the bottom. Same with this one. And again, that's due to the water hitting the windows and it going down to the bottom. But the rest of it looks pretty good. And the absolute best tool I could find to take this paint off, and it's not a sanding block either. Sanding block will just it'll take you forever and a day. You probably can use an orbital sander or air grinder like this, and you know, you get dust all up in the air while you're doing it. But this is lead paint, so you don't want to do that. So the best tool is this tool. It's a carbide tipped blade, and you could buy these at Ace for about $22, Home Depot for a little less. It's a Husky brand one that I'm using, and it works pretty good. Alright, so you want to have the shop back on, so I'm going to turn it on while I'm doing this to avoid lead dust exposure. And make sure you have a mask on, because if you do with lead, you don't want the lead in your lungs. Mask on, vacuum. And you can see how quick it takes it off. It's pretty good. Okay. Now you don't take it all the way down, but you want to get most of it off, at least the thicker chunks of paint. And then when I'm done with doing the whole window with the scraper, I'll vacuum up everything, and then I'll hit it with the palm sander. This one right here is a rigid, and I'll use 80 grit. Then I'll go up to 120 at the end, and that should be good enough, sufficient enough to primer over. And that's what I stopped this one at. This is done up to 120, and it's pretty smooth. You can go a little bit finer on the grit, but 120 seems good enough. So yeah, that's what I've been doing to scrape these windows down to bare wood, because you really don't want to paint over old paint like this, because it's just gonna you know, chalk and peel and crack again, because this paint is no longer sticking to the wood. It's just kind of flaking off everywhere, just like that. See that? You can't paint over that. And I've seen many people paint their homes and they paint over this, and then they wonder why a year later it's failing them, you know, because you got to have it sticking to the actual wood. I'm going to be using an oil-based primer on this by Kills. This is what I got. It's about $23 a gallon. It's oil-based, and it's the original. And this one's interior exterior. They had another one that was just for interior, but since these are, you know, this half's on the exterior and the other's on the interior, I wanted exterior and interior. I like to use two hands. You know, put one hand here and one hand on the handle. And it might help if you have some music on, because this can be quite boring. That's why I got my earplugs here and some music. Alright, so that's one pillar that I just did, and that didn't took me more than like 5-10 minutes to do this whole piece all the way down. And I got rid of most of the paint. Whatever I didn't get, the palm sander will do in probably a minute or two. We'll see how long it takes. Alright, next is palm sander with 80 grit. so that took me just a couple minutes. Take this off real quick so you guys can see. That got pretty smooth. Okay, now if you got any chips here, you can use a wood filler or epoxy to fill those in. And then this is pretty smooth, but like I said, I go up to 120 grit on this. But yeah, if I just tried the palm sander, it'd probably take me twice or 4 times as long as what this took me. And I'll do this on every corner of the sash, flip it over and do the other side. And then at the end you'll have something like this in the end. A fully restored window sash ready for a primer and paint. Or stain, if you're doing stain on the inside. So if you're restoring a window sash, I definitely recommend getting one of these carbide scrapers and a good palm sander. This is one made by Rigid, really good. Has a little vacuum here that does some sucking of the dust. And yeah, these 2 tools here will restore this whole window, save you money throughout the years. This window will outlive me when I'm done with it. And if you replace the windows with a double pane window that's made out of PVC or plastic, that probably lasts maybe 15-20 years, and then you'll have to replace them again. So this definitely is worth the labor to fix it up so it lasts that many more years. And plus, you keep the original look to the old home that you have. Alright, next is to remove the glazing, the old glazing. Just going to use a regular scraper. And this is pretty old stuff. It's just coming off real easy. Sometimes it's so hard that it won't come off, and you have to literally get like a chisel and chisel it out. But luckily this one is coming right off. The last one I did, I had to really chisel a lot of it out. There you go. Still got a little bit more to do, but I'm going to go and scrape this off first. So what I did right there, sometimes the paint is holding on to the glaze. So remove the paint, and then the glaze will come off a little bit easier. So I guess initially what you want to do is scrape this out before you take the window out. It'll be a little bit easier to get the glaze out, in my opinion. But you can do it the way you want. Well, I think this is me. It's your project. You're doing this. It's up to you how you want to do it. There's 100 different ways to do something. And also I heard for stubborn stuff that you can use a heat gun. I haven't tried that yet, but I think I'm going to try it on this. Because right there, it's a little bit stubborn. Spot right there. It's a little bit stubborn. So I'm going to try a heat gun. Alright, so it looks like the heat gun does work. it up and it does break a little bit easier. So this thing does work to remove glazing. Alright, the last piece of glaze is right here. From here to here, and that's it. There's no more glaze left after that. So it looks like we're going to need the heat gun on this one. Oh, there we go, like butter. There we go. That's what we want. I wish I would have used this method on the other paint, the other window sash that I did, because it works really good. Alright, there you go. See, if you got the right methods, this doesn't have to be a painful process. You know what you're doing. Alright, so now I got all the glazing off the perimeter. It's all gone. Next time I take this, these little points here, and I'll pull them out. This is what's holding the glass in. Okay. They have them every so often. There's another one here. Okay, 2. And here's a newer style one here that somebody had added at one point. This one looks a little different. That's like the ones those are the newer style, because I had bought some of those. And there's another one here. And one more here. So now the window should pop right out. And we'll see how easy that is. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and label this before I take it out completely. I don't know if it matters which one goes in, which one goes out, but I'm just going to put some tape here and go and say this is the outside. And then we'll finish it off. We'll go and do what we did here all the way around, flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. Alright, so I went and scraped everything. I'm finished. Sanded it down with 80 grit on the palm sander. And you can see right here, you're going to have paint in this groove here where the window glass sits. And you're going to use the same tool, the scraper, to get that out. I'm just going to go like this, right in here like that, and just kind of rub it just like this. And then pull back. Always just pull back. Don't go back and forth. Just pull in one direction, which is towards you. Okay? And then you're going to scrape this all the way down until there's no more paint on it. And then you'll go over there with a block. The palm sander won't fit in there. You get a little block like this. This is a Dura block with some 180 grit on there. And you're just going to sand this out like that. And then it should come out just like this side's done right here. Okay, I went and sanded this all out with my block. And that gets the wood really nice and smooth. So when you go and put that glass in, you'll have no glaze in there or anything like that. So this thing's almost ready. Just got to do and clean this one side out and I'm finished. This thing's ready for primer. And I'll be using oil-based primer.